Hey everyone, this is the week 2 walkthrough for the PowerPoint or the family tree presentation. Okay, so over here in student materials, you're going to see there's the hints and list style rubric. That will be a Word document that you download. I just go through everything. You're going to see the traditional rubric, the easy checklist. You're going to see the PowerPoint example, one that's just kind of a boring one, and then a really full one with dogs that shows pictures of my cute little puppies and how you might show the pictures and then talk about the science, and then of course this walkthrough video. It will look slightly different for you, maybe a slightly different name over here. Your due date will of course be yours. Again, this will say assignments, this will say not be crossed out, you know, it will say all that kind of stuff. This should be basically the same. Summarize is going to change. I'm going to talk about that in the list style rubrics because you'll see what it looks like. So let's go through that. Okay, so when you open the Word document, it's going to look like this. This is the one that's the list style PowerPoint rubric. You should always look at the rubric for any assignment because that's where the teacher really puts in everything about it. This is going to be the updated version, which would also be reflected in your description of the assignment. I'm just using an old class, right? So it tells you it's always due on Monday. This one, you're supposed to think of this assignment as a lesson to high school students about genetics. So that's your age level, probably seniors, and you're going to use your family to explain how the various traits are inherited. So that means that I'm going to talk about my family and say, hey, here's how this family works in genetics. The science says this is how it should work, and that's kind of being shown in my family, okay? You're going to do a bunch of slides. I liked personally one slide per trait. It just makes the most sense in my brain. Make sure you have the family tree. I like to have a family tree for like the family tree showing everybody's eye color, and then in the speaker notes I could talk about what the science is. So it's going to be half a point for showing your family tree, talking about how the traits are, you know, who's got what color of eye or hair or whatever. And then it's a half a point for discussing the genetics. This means you have to have an in-text citation. So maybe you go to, I don't know, like Wise Geek or the Tech, the Tech Museum, I believe is a good one. There's a list you'll see posted of various mitosis and meiosis suggestions that might help you out. Okay, but generally just Google, seriously, this is the best way of doing it. Google I care genetics and you'll have all these great sites. Find one that works for you and use that. Try to keep it as scientifically known as possible. So knowabout.com, no Wikipedia, but there's some great ones. There's an eye color calculator, great stuff. Okay, so the same thing with all these traits. You can do eye color, so color of the eyes, hair color of the hairs, dominant hand, left or right. This one's going to be a little tricky because it's not all just genetics. You could talk about that too if you wish. Height is another one where it's genetics, but there's a wide range. It's very environmental. Widow's peak. Okay, so if you don't have widow's peak in your family, then you're going to say, hey, if I marry somebody with a widow's peak or just had children with someone who had a widow's peak, the likelihood that my child would have widow's peak is whatever, you know, because of the genetics. So just bring it in like that. So you don't just say no and then don't talk about the science. So this was another example of a way to bring in the science. You say, yeah, our genetics is kind of simple. Everybody's the same, but if we married and got that diversity in, here's how it would affect us, right? Hemophilia is the same way. If your family does not have this trait, you would talk about what would happen if you reproduce with someone who did. You know, there's lots of great information out there on this that you can have some really interesting facts. And then a family trait or genetic. Now don't tell me you don't have a family trait. It doesn't mean everyone has to have it. You could be rolling your tongue. It could be not rolling your tongue. It could be having attached earlobes or not attached earlobes. It could be having wavy hair. It could be having straight hair. All of these are perfectly fine. I would say Google just human genetic examples or something like that, and you'll see a whole list of options on what it could be. And it doesn't have to be like, you know, like for instance, we're talking about hemophilia. You say, I don't have hemophilia, so I don't have that trait. Well, actually, not having hemophilia is a trait. Of course, you can't use that one because it's got to be somebody unique. But go ahead, have fun, be creative, find something interesting about your family. You could be having a mole, seriously. Okay, so then this is where it changed a little bit from what you saw on the other slide. So because this will be changed in your assignment description. So you're going to summarize the difference between autosomal and sex-linked inheritance. So if I have an autosomal trait, how is that inherited? If I have a sex-linked trait, how is that inherited? And then you're going to talk about the genetics of sex-linked. So autosomal, you just discussed how that gets inherited. Sex-linked is different. So I told you it's a point for defining those. And then for this sex-linked part, it is going to be a point for discussing that genetics. So think about color blindness. You know, we know there's more colorblind boys than there are girls. Why is this so? What's the genetics behind that? You don't have to use color blindness. You can use whatever sex-linked trait you want. You could just say in general is how it works. It's totally fine. I just need to understand that variation. Why is that there when it's not seen with autosomal? And then you prepare at least 5 slides. Of course, if you do a slide for every trait, you're going to have more than enough. In fact, usually everyone's about 10 slides, totally fine. You're going to have your speaker notes. Make sure to have those. Let me open PowerPoint in a second so I can make sure you know where the speaker notes are, because that would be good. And then if your PowerPoint's not used, I'm not grading it. I'm not going to grade tons of things. I just don't have the time. Let's see. Oh, it still talks about the Learning Team project. Oh. We could just delete this. At one time, long ago, there was a Learning Team project. Y'all don't have one anymore. Be happy. Okay, so just telling you, yes, you have to have a PowerPoint. Okay, and then here's a hint on sort of what I want it to look like, right? So this is determine the allele is dominant. So this is how I would approach the assignment. So I would say, which allele is dominant, what's recessive, right? And then are they codominant, incomplete dominant, sex-linked, or just dominant recessive? What does that mean? Like I said, great time to Google. So we look at my family. We see my grandma's super short, my grandpa's super tall, my mom's average, my dad's tall, I'm on the short side. Let me get rid of the little lines. So it would look something like that without the little lines. In your PowerPoint, you can use like a flow chart. You know, feel free to let your creative juices run. And you know I like the little grammar stuff. So in speaker notes, the box below the slide, this is where I'm going to say, hey, this is what you see during my presentation is up here, this whole chart. But here's what I say in my presentation, because you don't want your audience to just be reading your presentation. It makes a horribly boring presentation and just allows people to zone out. It's horrible. So I would say, so I know this makes sense in terms of height and incomplete dominance, Scientific America 2006. So that's how I got my in-text citation, because I'm talking about height and incomplete dominance. I found that out from this source. My differently sized grandparents were likely to create an average child. This is similar to red and white flower creating a pink flower. Then my parents carried the short allele. My mom did, passed it to me. This means my dad probably had some short alleles too. And then I would finish up with what should I include here regarding the heights of my expected children. So I would say, like, so I think my kids will probably, if I marry someone tall, be more likely to be average, right? Something like that. You don't have to be that detailed. I know this is all new for you. You can say like it all makes sense because height is incomplete dominant, and so the variety of traits could be experienced. Something like that is fine. Just make sure you get that in-text citation in there, APA. So then the very last slide of your presentation is always your reference slide, and here's my full reference. Because you're in PowerPoint, you don't have to do that hanging indent. It's just too much of a pain in the butt, but you still want to look at that first word here, scientific, and look at all the other first words of your references and put them in ABC order by the first word. Okay? So it looks pretty. And then, like I said, another way is to create a family tree that includes the trait. For instance, say eye color. Sort of what I did. I gave you one that was more like, it's about the same way. And then, so for eye color, you Google about eye color. In the speaker notes, you would talk about the trends you see, describe what the science happened. So this would be a really simple thing. So you could say 1. You wouldn't use the 1. You say, I see that everyone has brown eyes. The science says that whatever percent of people have brown eyes in text citation. So my family and science totally agree, right? And then you do that for all of them, right? And always make sure you remember that last prompt. People always forget the summarizing thing. So in general for PowerPoints, you want to have at least one picture per slide. keep most of, I'm just repeating myself, most of your words in your speaker notes, because you do not want your audience to be reading your slides. Try to think about, if I watch this, how boring would that be, and try to change it up a little bit to keep that interest going, right? If you do lists, they're really great. Try to keep them 2 to 3 words per list, right? And don't forget your reference slide and your in-text citations. Okay, I'm going to pause this and I'll open up the example PowerPoint. Let's do the dog one. I'll open up the dog one to make sure you see where that speaker's notes section is. Okay, so here is the genetic profile thing that you would download with dogs. This is my dog, Peanut, because she's adorable. You see the title page. Here's the title, my name because I wrote it, the course, and then I would put in the date. Now down here, in this thing here, you see how it can shrink and look like it's not there, but it is there, so pull it up. That is going to be where you type in everything. That's your speaker notes section. Over here is where all your slides are, right? So you see how I have a picture? I have to give you a brief list, and then that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm doing a little bit of history. I'm going to do a chart. I talk about it. Here's a gene. So here's where, this is more like your assignment. So here, I can't do a family tree because she's my baby girl. Who knows what the heck she was born from. I got her at the pound. So you would have a family tree. Hopefully you know more about your family. And then talk about the science, right? And then we talk about a different one. And you see how great the pictures are just to add in that interest to your presentation, but you want to keep the words off of it so much. If you use a picture that you only find in one site, you need to cite it underneath the picture. These are ones that were just across the internet in general, so I can consider them common knowledge, okay? And then here's more like that. You try to grade it. That's also really great to use the colors. If you're doing eye colors and you have different colors, maybe you want to color code your colors just to make it, look how cute she is. My dog is so cute. So that gives you the whole thing, and then the reference slide at the end, you see they're in ABC order by first word. I didn't bother with the indentation, but it gave you all the information. So hopefully this helps you set it up. Oh, let's look at the other PowerPoint too really quickly. So this is the other PowerPoint that you can download. You see again my name, the class number, and the date. I would put in the actual date. Here is height, so this is what you would probably look like more. You don't have to put in the actual genetics of tall, you know, whatever alleles. You could just say short, tall, average. I'm just giving you a little extra because I am the teacher. And then here would be my reference page started out, and you saw my in-text reference down here in the speaker notes. Remember that they may, when you pop it up, they may be almost completely hidden. You'll have to drag them up. And they go really big. I usually grade it at about, let's see, that's too small on the slide. That's about what I'm going to see when I grade it. Okay, I hope this really helps, gives you an idea of how to start things. Try to be really creative, have a lot of fun.